Well, hello, and welcome to episode 209 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, that very first Oscar night you and I spent together. Best Picture that year was Parasite. It was directed by Bong Joon-ho, right? Won quite a few
Yeah,
awards that evening, and that was kind of our first, I guess, exposure to Bong Joon-ho here for sure. And Parasite, definitely swept the evening. And we've all been waiting with bated breath for what Bong Joon-ho was going to do next. And this week, we saw what he was going to do next, and it was Mickey 17.
it was Mickey 17. And I gotta say, like, I was super excited about this when we first saw it. I don't even know if we were together when I first saw the re preview of it because it just looks really strange, right? Like, just weird. And we knew we were gonna get that because Parasite is real weird. Like, there are parts of it that are perfectly normal, there are parts of it that are really outlandish, and then there's like these WTF moments where you're like, what is going on? And I have to say, Mickey 17 does no shortage of weird moments there too.
Yeah, that's right. It's mostly weird moments, I have to say, in Mickey 17, but we're going to get into some of the stranger moments, but we're also going to get into a really good cocktail that pays homage, to tea that you might be serving to Mickey 17 there as you're trying to comfort him, this tea that you brought all the way from Earth. So let's do that, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back to whip up this week's drink.
So Brian, we watched this film and we
Hmm.
were
Hmm.
deciding whether or not we should try and kind of create like a recipe just based on what we had seen in the previews and what we knew about it. And we decided to go ahead and watch it. And I'm so glad that we did because we left that theater. You came out of it and you said, I know what we should do. We need to find a cocktail that has tea in it. And I thought, that sounds disgusting, but okay, let's do it. Um, and it's because of the one scene where Mickey's really upset, and this girl goes to his room and she's like, I brought this tea. I made you a cup of tea and I brought this. It's beautiful looking in this really beautiful, like, teapot that looks very normal for 2077 or whenever
Hmm.
year this
Hmm.
was done. But it's like chamomile tea. And she's like, it's very rare. I only have a little bit of it. Enjoy it. Drink it, please. And you came up with you found this really neat recipe.
Yeah, absolutely. So this recipe, it comes from savor.com. Got a link to that down in the show notes, but it's called the birds and the bees. And I guess maybe it's a double play there, right? Birds and the bees, I guess, because Mickey keeps getting reborn again and again over the time in this show. So maybe it plays on that as well. And the birds and the bees is a really good cocktail. It is a play on the bee's knees, if you're familiar with that classic of classic gin prohibition era cocktails, which is, gin, honey syrup, and some lemon juice, right? That's what you got going there in the bee's knees. But this is the birds and bees. So instead of just doing a straight up honey syrup, what we're going to be doing is making a chamomile honey syrup. And I have to admit, Michaela, I suggested the tea cocktail, knowing full well that you are not a fan of tea. I also am not a fan of tea, but we have to pay homage to the film there. So I was like, let's try it out. Maybe we'll find something that's really good. And the chamomile honey syrup sounded great to me because it has a copious amount of honey in it, which is good. And it, kind of puts a little light bulb on in my brain for some future cocktails. So stay tuned for those probably on the Discord and Patreon hangouts and, all that stuff, lobby bars stuff, because I've got a lot of good ideas for the syrup. But let's go ahead and start with that. So basically, into half a cup of water, go ahead and throw 2 tea bags of your chamomile tea. Now, I used the Celestial seasoning. It's actually a honey vanilla chamomile, which is nice. I couldn't find just a straight up chamomile tea, so maybe that is why it was extra delicious. But take 2 of those tea bags, put them into some hot water, half a cup of hot water, let that steep for about 5 minutes. And go ahead and take those tea bags out, and then you're going to add half a cup of honey into that. So it's equal parts honey and water there to make your syrup. And go ahead and just stir that until it's dissolved, and then you can go ahead and put it into a bottle, stick it in the refrigerator, and you're going to be good to go with that for quite a while. And it's going to be really versatile, I think, in a lot of future cocktails. Like I said, stay tuned for those. But now that we have our syrup made, Michaela, would you make the cocktail for everyone?
I can. So you're going to take 2 ounces of your favorite gin. We're going to talk about our gin selection in a little bit, but 2 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of your chamomile honey syrup, 1 ounce of lemon juice. You're going to put that in Well, it was gin. I put it in a shaker because I don't care if the gin gets cloudy. I mixed it up till it was real nice and cold with some ice, and then I put it in a coupe glass and that was chilled. Brian has a great idea. If you like chilled coupe glasses or chilled glasses in the first place, put a couple in your freezer, and then you don't have to waste any ice or water and worry about that. You just bring it out, pour it in it, and drink it. Best idea ever. I have to say, life hack. This was amazing. This was
Yeah.
amazing. Now, which gin did you pick for your 2 ounces of gin?
So actually, I just used a gin actually that I got from Ohio, from our friend Matt, patron there. Shout out to Matt who gifted me this gin. It's just like an American style gin, which means that it does have a little bit of those tried and true kind of juniper notes and stuff like that that you get in gin, but it also has a little bit more kind of like citrus flavors and stuff like that. It's just a nice straight up good quality all around gin. My favorite gin of the moment is the Bar Hill gin, which has some honey notes to it. But I thought that that might be a little bit too much since we're doing the honey syrup here in this cocktail. But yeah, I just used, I believe Iron Vault is the name of the distillery there,
Ooh.
coming from Galleon, Ohio. So check out Iron Vault Distillery if you're ever in Galleon, Ohio. That one was a really nice one. What one did you use, Michaela?
So I had a couple of these, and I have to say, I think that I preferred the kind of a simpler take on it. I did a St. George, just kind of a plain. It's not
Hmm.
plain because it's very good, but Saint. I did a St. George first, and then I thought, ooh, what if I fruited this up a little bit and did something even more floral, which was Brockton's. Brockton's is one of my favorite gins of all time. I just love how it tastes. Um, it was a little too busy. It was too busy for
Okay.
this birds and bees cocktail. So I tend to agree with you. If you've got something like Booker's, you've got something like St. George, just a plain gin, maybe not a Seagram's, maybe a step above that. Nothing against your Seagram's, but um, but something that's going to really let the chamomile honey kind of shine. Because this, I swear, you said this, and I was like, this is going to be real gross. But there's enough honey syrup in it that makes all things good. Honey makes everything better, even chamomile tea. And it's funny because I have the exact same chamomile vanilla from Celestial Seasonings that you're talking about. That's the only
Hmm.
tea that I do have in my house when I'm sick. It's the only thing I'll drink. I've never actually had it with honey, but apparently you add honey to that and everything's great. This was real good. It was real balanced because it's got the lemon juice and the honey. And I love a honey syrup. We did a whiskey amore for Lost in Translation, and that's the first time I'd ever had a honey syrup, and that was amazing as well. So if you're liking honey syrup, if you're wanting to explore some of that in the Drink the Movies kind of repertoire in our book of business, you can go back to that episode where we do Lost in Translation because that honey syrup cocktail is also amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this technique probably works really well with other flavors of tea. If you're not a weirdo that doesn't like tea like Michaela and I, if you are a fan of tea, go ahead and try your favorite one. Turn it into a honey syrup, and maybe that's going to be your jam too. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and mix up another one of these because it was delicious. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film, Mickey 17.
On Earth, nothing was working out, and I wanted to get the hell out of there.
You're applying to be an expendable? You read through the paperwork.
Yeah, I should have read through it.
Spoiler warning for Mickey 17. If you've not yet seen this film, it's not all that surprising because it's just been out a few weeks, but we're going to talk about all the things, including the end and all the weirdness, all the scenes that are real strange. So you've been warned. If you haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, go make yourself up some chamomile honey syrup, make yourself a birds and beets cocktail, go watch the movie, come back, and we can chat about it together.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, Michaela, this did just come out, released in 2025, directed by Bong Joon-ho, and it stars Robert Pattinson as the expendable Mickey Barnes. Stephen Yun plays his friend slash enemy slash failed business partner Timo. Naomi Aki is his true love Nasha, and Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette play the failed politician husband and wife who are trying to establish their vision of a perfect society in space. So, Michaela, this was based off of a book Kind of, sort of, actually. It's kind of an interesting little aside here. So the book was written, Mickey 7, by Edward Ashton, published in 2022, but it was actually already announced that Bong Joon-ho was going to be making the film adaptation of the book before the book even published. So I guess he liked what he saw straight off the bat there, and decided to, give it a try here as his first outing from Parasite, and a lot of the same kind of themes, I guess, kind of in this, really looking at, society and, um, capitalism and, different themes like that. The same kind of thing, carrying over from Parasite into Mickey 17. But this one looked pretty good, right? It looked zany, it looked wild, it looked like Robert Pattinson was going to have a real weird accent in it, and all those things were true.
All those things are true. Yeah, I don't know where Robert Pattinson is supposed to be from on Earth. I think it's like Boston or New York. I could never quite figure it out. But I loved it because Robert Pattinson is actually English, I believe. And so his American accents, I'm looking at you, Edward Cullen, are very different. He's such a treasure. I think he's one of the most underrated actors because he made one bad casting choice, but that casting choice is probably financing his life forever to come, right?
Yeah.
Like people make fun of
If
him
we could
because he
all
was a
do so
shiny
poorly.
vampire, right? Right, right. But he's amazing. And I knew that this would be something kind of, in his wheelhouse of weirdness because Robert Pattinson has done some strange like indie films that are off. But this actually, it's so funny that you say that it's very similar in a lot of ways. The thematic elements are very similar to Parasite, even though they are incredibly different films. So yeah, let's
Yeah,
get into it.
absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about the story here a little bit. There is a lot to keep track of, obviously, because Mickey 17 is, newsflash, the 17th iteration of Mickey Barnes there. So we catch up. Our story starts on Earth. We're introduced to Mickey, who has a bit of a business failings with his friend there, Timo, who's played by Stephen Yun. They go into like a macaroon business or something. It seems like Timo is a bit of I don't know, not ahead for business, right? To make some bad business dealings, and of course, then that loan gets turned into the loan shark slash mob boss or crime lords or whoever's operating in 2054 to come and collect on that. It seems like a bad time. Like this guy just likes to see his debts not get cashed in. Just would rather torture and dispose of people who are not able to pay off their debts. So when you're looking at that, that's what you're staring in the eye. You go and you need to get off planet ASAP. Now, unfortunately, Mickey Barnes, Michaela, is a little slow-witted, I guess. Maybe doesn't have a lot of skills really that are useful in going into space and helping to colonize a new planet. So what do? You sign up for the only program you are eligible for, and that is to be an expendable. What's an expendable, you might ask? They basically take your memories, they put them onto a brick, a literal brick, which is kind of funny, and then you can die, and then they just print out a new version of you, re-upload your memories, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and they do this memory update thing every week. So you'll lose a little bit of time, but not a ton of time, which I find kind of interesting. So you get to keep the memories of like what you've done. So like if you are someone who cleans the trash or is outside like cleaning off pieces of the ship, you'll know how to do that for next time. It's not so that you can actually build lasting relationships or anything like that because they don't care about you. You're an expendable. Now, what I find sad and interesting about this is Mickey Barnes has to be an expendable, but Steven Yeun, his friend, he always seems to like be the most squirreliest person. He's his friend, but not really. With friends like this, you don't need enemies. This guy is like I don't know. He's like a shipper. He can go and like he gets a gun. He gets to go shoot things. He gets to go like explore parts of the earth. Mickey Barnes, he doesn't get to do any of that. He just gets to die over and over and over again. And they do this thing where they like test the atmosphere because that's what happens. You land on this planet, right? And you don't know if you can actually live on this planet. So they go and they like make him go outside and see what happens. And the incredulousness of like the lack of humanity within this whole program is pretty funny until it's not, right? I find it kind of plays out kind of like Starship Trooper-esque almost to me, where it's you almost think it's satire, but then it's not. Like they really just do not care about him. I mean, there's a scene where he is um literally dying and they're like, "Can you tell us when you start to go blind? Can you tell us when your skin starts to melt off?" We're like writing this down and documenting this for posterity because he has no rights at all. Like he's not even a person really anymore.
Yeah, now shout out to the inhabitants of Earth because they keep doing like this flashback thing, and the people of Earth actually decided that this technology was no good, can't do it on Earth. That's why people have to go into space to do it to let that happen. So he goes, he's on a spaceship, right? To Niflheim. He is in this program to be, subjected to viruses, to atmospheres, to cleaning off the side of the ship, and you're seeing kind of his deaths over and over again until we eventually get into the 17th iteration. But throughout this time we meet up with a character named Nasha, played by Naomi Aki, and she takes a liking to Mickey there. And he even says, I don't know why she decided to like me, but kudos to her and kudos to him. Seems like they have a really nice relationship, which we actually get some glimpses of later, which is quite beautiful, I will say, because one of the things on the ship is you're not allowed to have relations. You're not allowed to like have any like food other than, what is provided, and they can like just cut down your calories. I think Mickey ends up getting his like calories like cut in half like 10 times over the course of the thing because this ship is being operated by none other than Kenneth and Yifa Marshall. Now, Kenneth was a politician, but basically got booted out of office, lost a couple of elections. He's played by Mark Ruffalo, the wife there played by Toni Collette, and they are off on this expedition to go settle Niflheim. Niflheim, I guess it's
Niflheim.
called. And they're going to be starting this in their own image. You can go ahead at home and decide what you think that image is going to be. And Mickey is just along for the ride here on this. And that's when things start to go amok a little bit because Mickey is out doing some surveying, I guess, kind of thing one day. Supposed to have died, right? Falls down an ice cavern. There's these wicked looking beasts there that might devour him whole. So, everyone on board this ship life, I guess, decides that Mickey's probably dead. If they go ahead and print out another one, then Mickey 17 turns back up.
Ah, he does. I we got to talk about a little bit about the special effects of these creepers. They call them creepers. They look like a tardigrade meets a roly poly. They're
Hmm
almost
hmm
cute. Like the little ones are cute. The big ones are terrifying. They got all these, I don't know, these got these giant tentacle things that like come out of their mouths and they scream but for whatever reason his friend again not his friend what's his name played by Stephen Yeun, what's his actual name in this, Timo just leaves him there. He's like, yeah, it doesn't really matter, you're gonna die anyway. It's then he asks the question like, what's it like to die? And that's the kind of the question that haunts you throughout this whole film. But the little tardigrade things, the creepers, they like save him. They bring him out of the cave, the cavern, all out. Like I don't know, there's like 250 of them, like all different sizes, like moving him along, with their little shellbacks. And he goes home. He just wants to go to bed. He lays down, and he finds himself next to Mickey 18, right? And that is a real problem because they are not supposed to have multiples. That politician Kenneth Marshall, he has vowed to kill any multiples because I guess one time this guy created multiples of himself so that he could be a serial killer. And like with every multiple, you're not really yourself anymore. And we see that pretty quickly between Mickey 17 and Mickey 18. Mickey 18, a lot more aggressive, takes a lot less crap. Really prone to violence, doesn't care. Mickey 17, he just loves his girl. Mickey 18, he also loves his girl. And that's where it gets kind of complicated and sad because they like each other, sort of, but Nash is not supposed to know that there are multiples. They're trying to keep this secret under wraps. And Mickey 18 is the first one to see her, and she takes him back to her apartment house place in the ship. And it's just really sad. You feel real bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Mickey 18 is a little militant there, I guess. And now we have the multiples on board, which is, of course, going to cause pandemonium for sure. And when Kenneth Marshall, I guess, the the self-appointed leader of Niflheim, catches wind of this, there's only one thing to do, right? It's to terminate these expendables, but maybe they could be useful, right? We do have these creatures out there who have seemed to be descending on the ship, and in order for for us to go colonize this place, of course, we have to eradicate the native things that are there. So that is exactly what they're going to try to do by luring them in and then sending the Mickeys out, strapped down with explosives to go see if they can either get them to leave or explode. Whoever does the best job gets to live to see another day. The other one is going to get blown up, which of course then turns to Kenneth Marshall being blown up himself, which is a bad day for him, but a good day for the rest of the world, I do believe. With that, Kenneth Marshall out of the picture here. Ilfa Marshall. Toni Collette's character there, she can't go on really without her husband there by her side. She's going to go ahead and end it for herself, and that leaves Nasha to take over, I guess, this colony, right? She's going to be kind of put in charge of everyone. Seems like a good candidate to me, and they decide right then and there they're going to end the expendable program once and for all with Mickey Barnes now, not Mickey 17 anymore, to detonate this device. Therefore putting an end to this program. Mickey Barnes is going to be allowed to live out his days with Nasha there. So, Michaela, that was the movie. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. Obviously, you have to deal with the multiple people of Mickey 17 here in this. And we talked a little bit about Robert Pattinson. Kind of the accent choice for that. I believe Bong Joon-ho kind of wanted this character to be a little bit, kind of simpler, a little bit, slower, I guess, kind of a thing, which maybe makes sense, I guess, for people that are getting put into programs like these. That makes sense there. But what did you think about his acting in this? Did you think he did a good job? Did he embody the character really well? What did you think about Mickey 17? And then conversely, what did you think about Mickey 18? Or I guess any of the earlier iterations of Mickey we see in this film?
Yeah, I really liked the juxtaposition between 18 and 17, just because you really got to see what the differences could be between the two characters and how the range of Robert Pattinson went. He plays kind of this lovable oaf, right? Who's like at the beginning, but Mickey 18, he's all edge, and I liked that he could do both at the same time.
Hmm.
I still don't quite, I mean, I'm sure they used crazy CGI to like put them next to each other. They've been doing this kind of twins based on one person cinematographic, sorcery since like the Patty Duke show. Okay. They've been doing this a really long time, but I really thought that they did a really good job of kind of playing them off each other. I got lost in it. I really thought there were two of them.
Hmm.
And maybe that's just me, but to me, the star of the show was Mark Ruffalo. He is amazing and awful. He has to have fake teeth in this because he's like all teeth. He's got this weird like cadence to the way he speaks. Toni Collette as Aoife is also like completely deranged. Her whole thing is sauces. Like she thinks that a formal like. You've reached the top and the pinnacle of civilization when you can create sauces and put those on food. And so she's like trying to create sauce out of these poor little creeper things, and that's really gross. But she's like, "Oh, it's fine. It's like mayonnaise, It's So I think that unfortunately, maybe for Robert Pattinson, I think the stars, it kind of Mark Ruffalo kind of stole the show for me a little bit as his egomaniacal like ness. He just knew no bounds, and um he reminded me a lot of the politicians that we see now that are just like have no regard for like human life, and I think that that's probably why this show is going to do as well as it's going to, is yet it's another take on, if you're going to start civilization over, first of all, what are you going to do with the folks, with the living beings that are in the space that you created or that you want to be in, right? And then how are you going to utilize a workforce to do the quote unquote dirty jobs, right?
Hmm. Yeah, it certainly does tackle that. It tackles a lot of things, and I'm kind of up in the air on how well I think it did most of that because there was so much of it trying to be done there in the film. Let's talk about Robert Pattinson again. I thought he did really well. I didn't think he got upstaged at all. For me, he's definitely the star of the show here. I do have to say, having kind of the different personalities of Mickey 17 or 18, like I liked that they were different, but from like a story standpoint, I didn't really quite understand it as well. We'd seen, 17 Mickeys, and they were all basically the same, and then all of a sudden Mickey 18 is this very militant type character. Like, where did that come from? Like, why did that
Mm,
happen? Was there a reason for it? Right? Like, he just wakes up like the next day and is like super agitated, and that's not like a characteristic that had been like dwelling inside of the
mm,
Mickeys like up to that point. So I thought that that was a little bit of a bridge too far there, story wise. But I enjoyed kind of the way that it was presented, and then yeah, just from like the thematic elements of it here, talking about the capitalism, about political systems, about going to new lands, right? To colonization, to what does it mean to clone someone? What does it mean to have their memories stored and able to be erased? And like there were like a thousand things like the movie was trying to deal with. So it was
hmm
like an inch deep and a mile wide, a lot of this stuff. Like I think I could have like
mm,
dove into some of that stuff a little bit more. Especially like in the very beginning of it. And it does, a pretty good job of like the first one there you mentioned, right? Tell us when you go blind. You tell us when you can't hear anymore. You tell us that when you're outside of the spaceship. And I was like, okay, it's going to liken this to being like, like animals and like clinical trials and things like that. Like
right.
that's the direction it's going. And then I'm like, oh no, maybe it's not that, but it is still kind of that, but it's all of these other things to all in one. So like I said, it tried to tick off a lot of boxes, I thought, and it left a little bit of them thinner than they could have been, which is
Mm.
why this isn't, really, really good for me. It's a really good movie. You should check it out. But I thought that, kind of missed on that front for my standpoint as well. We mentioned the tea, Michaela. That's made by this other girl who just suddenly like has an infatuation with Mickey 17 when she finds out that there's multiples, right? She's like, hey, I'll take Mickey 17, and then Naomi Aki, you can have Mickey 18. That sounds good too. But that kind of came out of nowhere, and then it didn't like go anywhere with it. Like,
Yeah, and she had just
so I thought,
lost her lover. Like her girlfriend had just like exploded like the day before. So that seemed
yeah.
a little off. Like you're not wrong there. The thing about it, I think this bit off a ton of things to chew, but so did Parasite. And I think that maybe maybe Bong got a little too overzealous with trying to tie all of those things together again.
Mhm.
Um, not that they're the same because they're not, but like all of the different pieces that he wanted to cover. I think Bong Joon-ho maybe just it was a little too ambitious for the timing because it's not a short film. I didn't
Mhm.
think. And I do feel like it it there were a couple of things that definitely could have been kind of taken out that would have preserved um the the majority of the things that we cared about like your example that whole chamomile tea as much as it inspired us to create a really nice or find a really nice cocktail. I do think that was just kind of out in left field where it was like I don't know what's purpose that piece served, and it
Mhm.
took some time away from the other things that it could have explored a little bit more. So I think you're right there. You mentioned earlier that, we've got less than a year earlier this week. We have less than a year to go out and see all the Oscar winning films already. The clock is ticking. If this were to be nominated for anything, it would be interesting to see how this shakes up against some of the other scripts that are based on previous works. Just
Mhm.
because now it did inspire me to want to go read Mickey 7 and just
Yep.
see what the differences are and like where they dived into those storylines a little bit more and where the director chose to maybe not and see how I feel about that because I think that the story in and of itself is actually really great and there's a lot of things going on. Um, yeah.
hmm Yeah, I don't know about adapted screenplay there, but for me, I did like a couple of things that the visual effects were really really well done. There were some beautiful shots, especially of like there's the one in the trailer that's great where you have I don't know, Mickey 17 or 18. He's got like the I don't know, it's like a machete or something that he's like putting on his back, and it's like this vast like open expanse, and you have the creepers kind of there in the background. So I mean, there's some gorgeous looking shots, but I thought that the visual effects were really good. My favorite aspect, I guess, of the film was probably the costume design. For the different inhabitants of kind of the space station, and then kind of the different outfits that Mickey goes on to wear, especially kind of at the end. They're like they're old like I don't know, they look like French like military like fatigue kind of things from like the 1800s or something. Like I thought that those were really cool. That was really well done. And then I loved kind of the little kind of tail end there where we pick back up with Nasha's character, talking about, kind of exploring that, and it shows her like, comforting Mickey and, kind of like his little like capsule where they're exposing him to things and stuff like that. And it's really, exploring it more because we don't obviously we see them spend a little bit of time together and then it turns almost into like this like I don't know, kind of like lustful kind of thing when Mickey
Yeah.
18 rolls around, but then it
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's kind of comes full circle and really it does explore more of like that love aspect to it. So like I said, I liked this movie quite a bit. I thought it was really good. It was really well made. It's definitely worth seeing, but there were a couple things that just kept it from being like absolutely great, I thought.
Yeah. I would say so. I think um I don't know. Shout out to Stephen Ewan as Timo again because I love Stephen Ewan because I hated this guy. At the end, like
Yeah.
he gets out of everything. Even at the end, when the loan sharks are like coming back and they're like, "Haha, we thought that you were safe because you're on another planet. We followed you in wait and we laid in wait and tried to kill you and put you down this chute that like ends up becoming all the things that Mickey 17 now is when they 3D print him back. It's real gross. But anyway, I don't know. I think you're right. I really liked it. And I think I probably want to see it again just to suck more life out of it because I think it does do a pretty good job of covering most of the things that it's supposed to cover. I just wish that it could have been a little bit more purposeful in some of the story arcs or just erase them all together so that we could get more of the good stuff.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, like I said, you should definitely go and check it out because it's an interesting story. And I love, kind of these original sci-fi films. A lot of them have not performed particularly well at the box office lately, and unfortunately, if that needs to start happening, or we're going to see less and less of these kind of things from movie studios out there. So definitely go check it out. It's definitely worth your time to see. And then yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it. Like you said, less than a year now until Oscars. We'll see if Bong Joon-ho can have a repeat of his. How many did he win? Four that night? He won a lot of times that night for sure. And also a special shout out to Robert Pattinson, who the previous highest grossing film in South Korea was The Batman, I guess, apparently. And now this is the highest grossing film in South Korea. So there you go. So kudos to him. I don't know. Any other thoughts here about Mickey 17, Michaela?
Um, I mean, I think, yeah, it put me off sauces for a little while. I'll say that. It's like,
Yeah, don't eat sauce. Yeah.
where did this all come from? Um, yeah, it gets kind of creepy at the end, right? Like with Aoife Marshall, like there's a moment where you're not quite sure if you're in a dream state or not. And you're real glad that they couldn't 3D print anybody anymore. Because it was probably just never a good idea to do. Yeah. That part was extra creepy. I got a little nervous that it was going to take like another turn, another crazy turn, and luckily
Mm,
that it didn't happen. Spoiler warning there, but no, that's pretty much it. I it's solid. It's a lot of fun. I mean, there are parts of it that are just hilarious because
mhm.
of how little care they actually have for each other and how sweet Mickey 17 is like in his like he's about to die. Like they think he's dead and they're gonna put him down the chute, and he's like, ah, just fine, just do it, you know.
Just,
And it's like, oh, buddy, oh, yeah.
j-
Anyway,
just do it. Yeah. And the absolute best there is then that the creepers just totally bluff all of us out there, which is great.
oh
Which is
yeah,
great. So
I want a baby creeper. I want one that stays small though. When it gets really big, it looks terrifying and
when it gets
looks
big.
like it can eat you, which is why they thought Mickey 17 had died in the first place. But the little ones are so cute.
Yeah, because it just looks like a little baby bulldog. You already got a couple of those, Michaela. So, yeah, so that is Mickey 17. So, let us know at home if you made it out to see Mickey 17 or if you've read the book or, what you think of it versus Parasites or if you were there to watch all of the Parasite wins. Let us know all that stuff. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to get pictures of our cocktail of the beautiful birds and bees cocktail, or learn how to make your own chamomile honey syrup, you can find the instructions, episode recaps, all that stuff on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And there you can find links to Drink the Video Games, links to the merchandise shop, and links to the Patreon, which is where we have all of our bonus content. We do hangouts, we do extra bonus episodes all month, we do extra cocktail chats whenever the theater near us has some special fun cocktails. We get on there and chat about it. You can find that at patreon.com/drink the movies. It's a great way to support the podcast, and we support our patrons so much. So, Michaela, next week we're going to be getting into the March Madness of all of it and paying homage to the late Gene Hackman. So, people are going to want to make sure that they are subscribed and following the podcast. So, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. What you're listening to us on right now, I guarantee has a subscribe button. We do 2 drops a week. We talk in our lobby bar about what's coming out and make a quick, easy drink that anybody, even you, can make. And then we do our deep dives like what we're doing right now. And we are so grateful for this community. You guys are awesome. Yeah, if you really liking what you're hearing, you can send us messages, you can give us feedback, you can share us, give reviews on all the social media sites. It really helps us get all the Drink the Movies stuff out there. Oh, and don't forget, we have a new Drink the Video Games episode out. And I say we, I mean Brian. But it is awesome. It's so much fun. The cocktails are really good too. Go check it out.
That's right. Thank you very much. So, with that, Michaela, that is going to wrap it up here for Mickey 17. Maybe we'll have to print out a couple more of those, or at least print out another Birds and Bees cocktail. So, let's go ahead and do that. We'll put a pin in this one, and we'll be back to talk to everyone next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies.
Ah, he and
Was
his big teeth. Mark
was
Ruffalo is just like, rah.
no? I thought that was your expendable voice.
No, the expendable one's like, it's fine. Just kill me. It's all
It's
right.
fine. It's fine.
So great. Oh.